I never thought I'd burn my own bloodline to the ground. But there I was, 40 floors above the screaming streets of Manhattan, my finger hovering over the projector remote like it was a goddamn detonator. The boardroom smelled like stale coffee and old money, the kind that sticks to your skin like regret. And in that split second, as my cousin's eyes bored into me like I was the family stray they'd finally decided to put down, I hit play and watched the first cracked spiderweb through the empire Dad built with his bare hands. It started 20 years ago, back when I was just a scrawny kid in pigtails, chasing fireflies in the overgrown yard of our estate in the Hamptons. The summer of '05, the one where the air hung heavy with salt and secrets. Dad, Elias Hawthorne, the steel magnate who'd clawed his way from a Queens tenement to Forbes' top 10, had gathered us all for what he called the Legacy Summit. Me, Marley, the overlooked middle child, squeezed between my golden boy brother Theo and my porcelain doll sister Lila. Mom was there too, her smile as brittle as the champagne flutes we clinked, but she was already fading into the wallpaper, her mind unraveling from the pills she popped like candy. That night, after the barbecue smoke cleared and the staff cleared out, Dad pulled me aside in his study. The room was a fortress of mahogany and leather-bound ledgers, walls lined with photos of him shaking hands with senators and CEOs. "Marley," he said, his voice gravelly from too many cigars, "you're the keeper now." He slid a small iron box across the desk, the kind that looked like it belonged in a pirate's chest, not a billionaire's lair. Inside, a flash drive, encrypted tighter than Fort Knox, and a single yellowed envelope sealed with wax. "This is the dirt under our nails, kid. The price of the throne. You guard it. For all of us." I was 12. What the hell did I know about thrones or dirt? But I nodded, because Dad's eyes had that fire. The same one that melted unions and swallowed competitors whole. He made me swear on Mom's antique Bible, the one with the cracked leather from her Baptist days in Alabama. "Swear you'll bury it deep, Marley. Deeper than the Atlantic. And if it ever surfaces, you fight like hell to shove it back down." I swore. And that box became my shadow, tucked in the back of my closet like a guilty secret I didn't even understand. Fast forward through the haze of prep schools in Connecticut, Ivy League haze at Yale where I majored in finance, because that's what Hawthorns do, and a string of boyfriends who bailed when they realized I came with more baggage than a transatlantic flight. By 25, I was the invisible Hawthorne, the one who balanced the books for Hawthorne Steel from a windowless cubicle in the Flatiron Building, while Theo schmoozed investors in Dubai and Lila posed for Vanity Fair spreads about heiress philanthropy. Family gatherings were a minefield of backhanded compliments. Marley's so reliable, and whispers about how I didn't have the spark. Mom's Alzheimer's had stolen her by then, shipped off to a facility in the Berkshires that cost more per month than most folks' houses. Dad, he stroked out in 18, mid-negotiation for a merger that would have doubled our worth. Left us the empire, sure, but with a codicil that twisted the knife. The legacy trust, doled out in tranches based on contributions to the family vision. I got zilch. Not a dime. Theo and Lila inherited the penthouses and the private jets. The cousins, Slick Vance and his vapid wife Brooke, plus Uncle Harlan, Dad's oily brother, split the board seats. Me? A consulting stipend that barely covered my rent in Brooklyn. "You're not legacy material, Marley," Theo said over scotch at the wake, his cufflinks glinting like shark teeth. "Dad always said you were the fixer, not the face." Lila just patted my hand, her nails manicured to perfection. "It's for the best, sweetie. You've got your little accounting gig. That should have been the end of it. Play the loyal soldier, fade into the spreadsheets." But the box? It followed me. Every night, I'd stare at it on my nightstand, the iron mocking me like a bad tattoo. And then, 6 months ago, the dreams started. Not the fluffy ones about Hampton's summers, but jagged nightmares. Dad's study on fire, the envelope unraveling like a noose, voices chanting my name in the smoke. "Keeper, keeper." I'd wake up soaked, heart hammering like a jackhammer on asphalt. It peaked on a rainy Tuesday in November. I was buried in Hawthorne Steel's Q3 reports. Ironic, since I wasn't even on the payroll anymore, when an email pinged from an anonymous sender. "The dirt's rising, Marley. Time to dig or drown." Attached, a grainy scan of the envelope seal, cracked open. My hands shook as I pried the box, plugged in the drive. Password. Dad's old Yale fight song, whispered to me that night. Files bloomed on my laptop screen. Emails, wire transfers, blueprints stamped Hawthorne Acquisitions, LLC. And at the core, a video timestamped July 4th, 2005, the day after the summit. Dad, red-faced and raging, arguing with Uncle Harlan in the study. Harlan, ever the weasel in his too-tight polo, shoving a stack of docs across the desk. It's done, Elias. The union's buried. Those safety reports? Falsified. The inspectors bought off. No one will trace it back. Dad's fist slams down. You idiot. That mill in Pittsburgh. 40 workers exposed to that chemical spill because you cut corners on the seals. They'll die slow, Harlan. Lung cancer, the works. Harlan sneers. Collateral, brother. For the legacy. You wanted expansion. I delivered. The video cuts to static, but the envelope? I tore it open. Inside, a confession. Harlan's handwriting, shaky. I take full responsibility for the falsification. Elias knew nothing. Forged. Dated the day before Dad's stroke. And clipped to it, a notarized affidavit from me, 12-year-old Marley, witnessing Harlan's solo guilt. My signature, childish loops and all, swearing I'd seen him shred the real reports alone. They'd made me the fall guy. Dad, to protect the empire from Harlan's screw-up. Harlan, to dodge the noose. And me? The kid who idolized her old man, fed the lie like it was mother's milk. That chemical? Benzene derivatives, the kind that seep into your bones and whisper tumors. 40 men, fathers, husbands, from the Rust Belt, coughing up black phlegm in trailer parks while we summered in the Hamptons. Dad covered it with a generous settlement fund, anonymous, off books. Harlan pocketed the savings, funneled into the trust that now funded Theo's yacht parties. Rage hit like a freight train through the Holland Tunnel. Not just at them, at myself, for swallowing it. For every yes, sir, in board meetings, every forced smile at family Thanksgivings where Harlan pontificated about American grit. I spent weeks in my walk-up, blinds drawn, piecing it together. Cross-referenced the files with public records, lawsuits buried in NDAs, widows' obits clustered in Allegheny County. The drive had backups, emails from Dad to Harlan. Marley's our shield. She'll hold. And Harlan's reply. Kid's tough. Tougher than you think. By December, the board was calling an emergency vote. Hawthorne Steel teetering on a hostile takeover from some Chinese conglomerate, whispers of internal rot. Theo, as interim CEO, scheduled the legacy review, code for carving me out entirely, selling my shares for pennies. Lila texted, family first, Mars. Show up or stay home. I showed up, not as the fixer, as the reckoning. The boardroom that December 2nd was a pressure cooker. Theo at the head, smug in his Brioni suit. Lila to his right, scrolling her phone. Vance and Brooke across, nursing lattes. Harlan at the end, nursing a grudge and a bourbon neat. Me, last to arrive, laptop under arm like a bazooka. Marley, Theo drawled, we appreciate your input, but this is about vision, not audits. I smiled, the kind that doesn't reach your eyes. Vision? Let's talk legacy then. Flicked on the projector. The room dimmed, Manhattan's glow filtering through the blinds like accusatory fingers. First slide. The mill blueprints, redlined with Harlan's cuts. Gasps rippled. Brooke's hand flew to her pearls. Slide 2. The falsified reports, my 12-year-old signature glowing like neon sin. Recognize this, uncle? The shield you hid behind. Harlan's face went the color of ash. What the hell is this, girl? Some prank. Theo leaned forward, voice like ice. Marley, log off. Now. But I didn't. Slide 3. The video. Dad's voice boomed. Tinny through the speakers. They'll die slow, Harlan. The room froze. Lila's phone clattered to the table. Vance muttered, Jesus Christ. And Harlan? He lunged, but security, my call, anonymous tip, pinned him before he could smash the projector. You think this ends it? Harlan snarled, veins bulging like subway tracks. That spill. Dad's idea. He pushed the merger, cut the budget himself. I just executed. Lies, but slick, flipping the script like he'd rehearsed in hell. Theo's eyes darted. Calculating, always calculating. Marley, this is libel. Slander. You'll bury us all. Bury. I laughed, bitter as black coffee. I've been buried for you my whole life. I hit next. Wire transfers. Harlan skimming millions into offshore accounts. Dad's sign-off buried in legalese. The widows' names, faces from obits I'd printed, grainy photos of hard hats and harder lives. 40 souls, Theo, while you yachted in Monaco. Legacy my ass. The vote crumbled. Shares tanked in after-hours trading. Alerts buzzing like angry hornets. Lila sobbed, why now? We could have fixed it quietly. Fixed it. Like a leaky faucet, not lives ruined. Vance bolted for the door, Brooke trailing, whispering about lawyers. Harlan, cuffed but composed, locked eyes with me. You're just like your old man, Marley. A Hawthorne through and through. Destroyer. As they dragged him out, Theo cornered me by the window. Rain lashed the glass, blurring the Empire State into a ghost. You did this for spite? After everything. His hand on my shoulder, brotherly, almost tender. We could have shared it. The truth. Made you CEO. Lies. The drive had his emails too, angling for full control, painting me as unstable. But in that moment, staring at the city that chewed up dreamers like gum, I felt the hook twist deeper. Was I avenging the dead, or just clawing for a seat at the table I'd been denied? The board adjourned in chaos. SEC on speed dial, headlines brewing like thunder. I slipped out into the elevator, the box heavy in my bag. Legacy? It tasted like ash. But the real storm was just breaking. Harlan's flip wasn't bluster, it was bait, and I was about to bite. The fallout hit like a nor'easter off the Atlantic, swift, savage, and soaked in regret. By dawn, my phone was a war zone. Voicemails from Theo laced with venom. You traitorous bitch. Text from Lila pleading, call me. Mars, we're sisters. And a single hang-up from an unknown number that I knew was Harlan, plotting from whatever midtown precinct they'd stashed him in. I holed up in my Brooklyn brownstone, blinds drawn against the paparazzi drones buzzing like mechanical vultures. The TV flickered with CNBC anchors dissecting, Hawthorne Airs' shocking expose. My face, grainy from some gala red carpet, plastered beside mugshots of Dad and Harlan. Corporate cover-up or family feud? One pundit sneered. Either way, the Rust Belt widows get justice. Or a payday. Justice. The word mocked me as I paced the creaky floors, the iron box now a Pandora's curse on my kitchen table. I'd emailed the files to a whistleblower contact at the New York Times. Anonymous, routed through VPNs I'd learned in Yale's cybersec elective. But leaks like this? They boomerang. By noon, federal agents knocked, badges flashing like bad omens. Miss Hawthorne, we need to talk about falsified affidavits. And your role. My role. The kid who'd signed away her soul for a father's nod. I lawyered up quick, some pitbull from the ACLU who'd cut his teeth on Enron fallout and stonewalled. Am I a suspect or a witness? The lead agent, a grizzled type named Kowalski with a mustache like a broom bristle, just grunted. Depends on how deep the rot goes, sweetheart. They left with copies of the drive, but not before I caught the pity in his eyes. Pity for the fixer turned fallout. Theo called that night, voice stripped raw. Marley, listen. Harlan's lawyered up too. Some shark from DC claiming you doctored the video. Deep fakes, he says. And the board? They're suing for defamation. Billions, Mars. You'll lose everything. Everything. I had a sublet and a 401k that wouldn't cover a colonoscopy. But the laugh bubbled up, hysterical. Lose what, Theo? The stipend? The pat on the head? Silence. Then a crackle like he was pacing his Tribeca loft. This isn't you. The drinking, the isolation, it's Mom's ghost talking. Come home. We'll fix it. Like always. Fix it. There it was again, that Hawthorne reflex. Slap duct tape on the hemorrhage and call it progress. I hung up, poured a tumbler of bourbon, Dad's brand, Maker's Mark, and scrolled the drive for leverage. Buried in metadata? An audio clip, time-stamped '09. Harlan confessing to a mistress, some Vegas showgirl named Candy. Elias made the call on the seals, but the kid? Marley? She vouched for me. Swear to God, she's the linchpin. Without her sig, we're cooked. Linchpin. Not daughter, not sister, just the keystone in their arch of lies. Fury boiled fresh, but so did doubt. Had Dad really orchestrated it all? The merger push, the bribes? Or was Harlan the serpent, twisting tails to slither free? I needed proof. Hard, uneditable proof. Next morning, I hit the streets, subway rattling me to Midtown like a guilty confession. Posed as a concerned relative at Harlan's arraignment, slipping his attorney a burner phone note. Park Avenue Cafe. Noon. Bring the real confession. He showed, disheveled, tie askew, but eyes sharp as switchblades. We huddled in a corner booth, steam from overpriced lattes fogging the window. "You got balls, niece," he muttered, sliding a napkin across. Scribbled, "Warehouse. 3 a.m. Evidence locker. But if you breathe." "Save the Godfather routine," I snapped. "You flipped on Dad in that video. Now flip on Theo. He's gunning for full control. Harlan. Selling to the Chinese, gutting the pensions." A lie, half-baked from bored whispers, but it landed. Harlan's jaw tightened, that weasel cunning flickering. "Theo? That pup. He knew about the spill, overheard us in '05. Begged me to loop him in later for lessons in legacy." He leaned in, breath sour. "But you? You're the wild card, Marley. Dad picked you because you were clean. No ego. Just duty." Duty. The word clawed at me. Then why forge my affidavit? Make me the goat. Harlan shrugged, theatrical. "Insurance. If it blew, blame the kid, sympathy play." Elias signed off. Said you'd understand someday. Understand. Like swallowing arsenic for the family recipe. I left with a key, literal, cold steel to a self-storage in Jersey, and a promise. "Get me the originals, and maybe I bury you shallow." Back in Brooklyn, I cracked the unit at dawn, heart pounding like a bass drop at a Jay-Z show. Boxes of files, musty as forgotten sins. The real safety reports, stamped authentic. Emails chaining Dad, Harlan, even a junior exec who OD'd on guilt in '07. And at the bottom, a second envelope addressed to me. Dad's scrawl. "If you're reading this, kid," the box opened. "Forgive me. The legacy's poison, but it's ours. Burn it all, or claim it. Claim it." The words echoed as sirens wailed in the distance. Jersey's industrial sprawl a grim mirror to the mill. I photographed everything, uploaded to a cloud deadman switch, triggered if I didn't check in daily. Then, the call. Lila, hysterical. "Harlan's out on bail. He's talking to the feds. Marley, blaming you for everything. Says you hacked the drive, framed him for spite. Theo's rallying the board. Emergency meeting tomorrow. If you don't show, they vote you out. For good. Out. As if I was ever in. But the hook twisted. Show up and risk the trap. Harlan's flip was a feint, drawing me into the crossfire. I spent the night scripting my play. PowerPoint from hell, slides laced with the new evidence. Added controversy for spice. A slide on Theo's lessons, implying frat boy complicity. Risky? Hell yes. Divisive? Like pitting Yankees fans against the Mets. But legacy wasn't a crown. It was a noose, and I was done dangling. The next day's boardroom was a coliseum. Lawyers in rows like gladiators, reporters cordoned outside like baying crowds. Theo, polished as a political ad, opened with a zinger. "Today's about healing." Marley's outburst was grief talking. But facts matter. He cued a video, my face, deep-faked into some incriminating rant, courtesy of Harlan's DC shark. Gasps, murmurs. Vance nodded along, the turncoat. My turn. I stood, remote in hand, voice steady as the Hudson. "Healing? Let's autopsy the corpse, then." Slides flew. The storage files, timestamps ironclad. Harlan's confession audio, Candy's voice purring in the background. The room ignited. Brooke shrieked. "This is madness." Lila buried her face, whispering, "Stop, Mars. Please." Theo lunged for the cord, but I sidestepped, projecting the dead man link. Touch it, and it all goes live. WikiLeaks style. Chaos crested. Harlan burst in, bail jumper, flanked by feds. "She's lying. All of it." But Kowalski cuffed him mid-sentence, muttering, "Save it for the plea, Hawthorne." Twist. The feds had flipped him en route, using my tip. Evidence locker raid, dawn. Harlan's weasel act crumbled under polygraph pins. As they hauled him out, Theo cornered me again, this time desperate. "Marley, wait. The takeover bid, it's real. Without unity, we lose it all. Join me. Co-CEO. Legacy for both of us." His eyes, for once, cracked. Fear, not calculation. Brotherly almost. I hesitated, the bourbon haze of last night whispering mercy. The widows? They'd get settlements, headlines. But us? Fractured forever. Then Lila's whisper. He knew, Mars. About the affidavit. Helped forge it. For the shares. Betrayal layered like sedimentary rock. I pulled the plug. Unity? Go to hell, Theo. The board dissolved into shouts, shares plummeting to penny stock purgatory. Outside, flashbulbs popped like gunfire. I slipped into the elevator, box in hand, the city a blur of neon absolution. But absolution? It tasted like fool's gold. Harlan's parting shot, hissed through cuffs. You think you're free, girl? The real poison's in you now. And as the doors closed, I wondered, was I the Avenger, or just the next Hawthorne to choke on the crown? The Empire's collapse was a slow-motion car wreck on the I-95, tires screeching, metal twisting, no one walking away unscathed. By New Year's, Hawthorne Steel was a carcass picked clean. The Chinese bid withdrawn amid FBI probes. Assets liquidated in fire sale auctions that funded victim trusts but left the family fortune a smoking ruin. Theo vanished to some tax haven condo in the Caymans. Radio silent except for a single postcard. Forgive the fixer. Legacy's overrated. Lila checked into rehab upstate. Her Instagram gone dark. Last post a cryptic black square captioned, "Blood is thicker than ink." Vansenbrook, divorced by Valentine's. Her alimony lawsuit a tabloid feast. Harlan, pleaded out to manslaughter charges, 40 counts, reduced for cooperation, sentenced to 20 in a low SEC Fed joint upstate, where Legacy meant license plates. Me, the whistleblower darling, or pariah, depending on the spin. Protests outside the Flatiron building. Widows in hard hats chanting my name. Picket signs scrawled Marley Hawthorne. Hero or heiress? CNBC booked me for a sit-down, but I ghosted, holing up in a rented cabin in the Adirondacks, the box finally consigned to a wood stove blaze. Flames licked the iron, curling Dad's notes into ash that swirled up the chimney like freed ghosts. Forgiveness? Nah. But closure? Close enough. Spring thawed the lake ice, and with it, the itch to rebuild. I landed a gig at a nonprofit in Albany, Rust Belt Revival, training ex-steelworkers for green tech jobs. Modest salary, shared office, but the coffee was free and the cause didn't reek of benzene. Dates flickered in. A park ranger with calloused hands and no pedigree, who laughed at my corporate war stories without the awe. Normalcy, that rare American dream, tasted like diner pancakes after a bender. But legacies don't die easy. June hit, and with it, a manila envelope. No return address, postmarked from the Caymans. Inside, a USB drive, labeled The Real Keeper. And a note, Theo's looping script. You were right about the poison, but you missed the antidote. Watch, then decide. Heart slamming like a bass drum at a Springsteen show, I plugged it in. Video bloomed. Not the study, but the Hamptons estate, summer '05. Me, 12, eavesdropping outside Dad's office. The argument, Harlan's push, Dad's rage, but then, a cut, Dad alone, dialing a number. It's Elias. The seals hold, for now. But if it leaks, blame Harlan. I'll handle the kid. Static, then another clip. Him in my room that night, sliding the box. Marley, listen close. This ain't just dirt, it's dynamite. But you're the only one strong enough to wield it. Not for revenge. For redemption. Promise me, when the time comes, you choose mercy. For all of us. Mercy. The word I'd scorched with every slide, every leak. The drive continued. Files I'd never seen. Dad's private journal. Entries chronicling the guilt. Harlan's weak, but he's blood. The spill? My merger blinded me. Marley's sig buys time, not absolution. God help her. And deeper, evidence of payoffs to the widows, not from the trust, but Dad's personal slush fund. Millions, anonymous, stretched over years, scholarships for kids, medical bills buried in community grants. Legacy, twisted, not just greed, but quiet atonement. Twist hit like a gut punch. I'd avenged the dead, sure, but torched the living without the full map. Theo's note followed. I knew about the fund, tried to continue it post-stroke. Harlan sabotaged, funneled to his accounts. When you dropped the bomb, I flipped to protect the rest. The deepfake? Desperation. Join me, Mars. Reform the remnants. Mercy, like Dad wanted. Debate raged in my skull, splitting like fault lines in the Appalachians. Hero? I'd exposed the rot, freed the truth. Widows testified at congressional hearings. Reforms passed for mill safety. But villain? My presentation didn't just topple Harlan. It cratered jobs for thousands, loyal Hawthorne lifers now on food stamps. Theo's plea. Co-rebuild, rebrand as ethical steel. Tempted. That sibling bond frayed but not severed. Yet Lila's rehab whispers filtered back. Theo's still scheming. Cayman accounts untouched. And Harlan's prison letters, smuggled via a cousin. Kid, you won. But victory's a lonely throne. Dad picked you 'cause you see the gray. Don't become the black and white. Gray. That's the Hawthorne curse. No pure right. No clean wrong. The widows cheered me in Albany rallies, but one, a steelworker's widow named Rita, lungs scarred like rusted pipes, cornered me after a speech. You gave us voices, girl. But your family's ghosts? They haunt us all. Mercy ain't weakness. It's the only win that sticks. Summer solstice, I drove back to the city. The throughway a ribbon of regret under harvest moon. Board remnants met in a neutral Soho loft. No mahogany, just IKEA folding chairs. Theo waited, gaunt, gold boy sheen dulled. Mars. One word, loaded. Lila joined via Zoom. Pixels pale, but eyes clear. No Harlan. His input, a postcard from Sing Sing. We talked till dawn. Reforms, not revenge. Merged the fund into the nonprofit, transparent audits, worker co-ops. Controversial? Hell yes. Wall Street howled socialism. Unions grumbled too little too late. Epilogue's a bitch in America. No tidy bows, just the grind. We relaunched as Hawthorne Renewables by fall. Solar retrofits for old mills. Jobs blooming in the belt like wildflowers post-fire. Rita consulted, her laugh a rasp but real. Theo and I? Dinners in Brooklyn dives. Bourbon thawing the ice. Brothers in arms, scarred but swinging. Lila? Back in the fold. Her philanthropy, now gritty, sleeves rolled. But the twist lingers, debate fodder for barstools and X-threads. Was mercy the happy end, or just delayed tragedy? Dad's journal warned of poison's half-life. Harlan's letters taunt from the pen. Some nights, staring at the skyline from my new modest walk-up, I wonder if I claimed the legacy, or if it claimed me. The widows thrive, the empires echo, but blood? It whispers still. In the end, revenge wasn't the fire that freed us. It was the ash we sifted for gold. And gold? In America, it's whatever you forge from the wreck, even if it glints with controversy.